What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Dark Room, where two blind cinephiles illuminate the sided. My name is Lee Pugsley,
I'm Alex Howard.
and this is a podcast hosted by two legally blind guys for film lovers of all abilities. And today, we are so excited for our very special guest, and we can't wait to just dive into so many fun and relevant topics. And Alex, I will let you go ahead and introduce our guest today.
Yeah, so today we have Tansy Alexander. You've probably heard her voice. She is the audio description narrator for The Hunger Games, the first four seasons of Stranger Things, and many other projects. So welcome, Tansy.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. It's a great show, by the way.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So I think to get started, we always start with our guests. How did you discover audio description? How did you get into doing this work?
Oh, gosh, it's been about 16 or 17 years ago. I'm a voiceover artist and I got thrown in the mix for an audition, basically, and had never even heard of audio description. It's kind of like a day that changed my life, really. And they put me through the hoops on a bunch of projects, rapid fire, and I was the one who got hired. So that's how it started. And from there, it just kind of expanded out as more and more companies were taking on audio description for their post-production work. You know, the person from the first company would go to the second company and then they would call me and say, hey, can you come help us? And that's just kind of how it came about to be my fingers in so many pies. Yep.
Do you remember your first project?
Um, that's so funny. I really don't. One of my first projects, though, was the one with Michael Fassbender and Michelle Williams, where it was kind of like
Was it
almost like
Shame?
it was Shame. Thank you.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Wasn't it great? But they didn't tell. I think it was like my second project, but that was like a soft core porn.
Yeah, it was NC-17, yeah.
Right. And they didn't tell me because, you know, when you're describing that kind of project, sometimes they were actually kind of shy about it, but your linguistics should match the tone of the show. And they were kind of shying on it, but still, there was a lot of, if you remember, there was a lot of orgies and slam bangs in the bathroom, in the hallway, in the back, you know, wherever it was. And I'm like, luckily, I'm not a shy person, so it was fine. And I really kind of laughed about it later. Yeah.
That's so funny. I'll have to
Now,
seek that out with AD because I didn't get to see that with description back in the day.
now, what was your first experience actually watching audio description? Because I know that you said you went to an audition, you had no idea what audio description was. So it wasn't like one of those things where you discovered AD because you accidentally turned it on somewhere. So, yeah, what was your first project that you actually listened to and watched with AD?
Um, I'm forgetting the name. I'm so sorry. It was Grace and Frankie. The audio description popped up, and I would like I'd already been doing it for years, for a couple of years or more, probably a lot more than that. Because I watched other stuff with audio description. I can't really remember. I just would turn it on and listen and see where it was, you know, where it was heading as a kind of as a business model and what they were doing for the writing and who was working in the field. But when I turned on Grace and Frankie, it was on and it was a guy and it was really nice voice. And I just started, I kind of wasn't even aware it was on at first. And then I realized it was on and I watched the whole show, all the seasons, listening to the audio description. It just really helped me to immerse myself. And then I started using it when I was driving up the coast to visit my folks and my family. And I would put Netflix on my phone and I would put the audio description on. And then I could, you know, virtually watch a show while I was driving without looking at the screen. So that was a pretty exciting usage that I found, you know, watch a show while you're doing housework and doing chores, you know, without having to actually watch it. So it's like an audiobook.
Exactly. I always tell sighted viewers that those are the best uses for it. If you're making dinner, you're doing household chores, you're driving, you can still follow what's going on, and then you don't have to go back and rewind it and be thoroughly confused by what you missed. So I'm glad that you are. So I'm glad that you tapped into that and found that secret and the benefit of that too.
Oh yeah, it's great. Everything you just said, yeah, chores, whatever. And I grew up where my father would listen sometimes to these old radio shows. And I was kind of intrigued by that. But now what we have is we have that same kind of audiobook or radio show, but you have the real actors. You don't just have people in a studio pretending. Have you guys ever heard a radio show from the way olden days? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they're kind of like you hear a creaky door and but now we have
Yeah.
like Fast and Furious. You've got sound effects, the cars, everything's included. So it's like the best kind of experience. Yeah.
You've done a lot of franchises like Hunger Games and Divergent. When did you start doing it like full time pretty much? Like where
Oh,
yeah.
it wasn't that far into into the inception of this where it started becoming I guess when I was at Deluxe, I was going in a lot. Switched at Birth was one of those projects that I worked on over there at Deluxe, and Disney was doing it, and they would come in every week for one of my sessions because I was recording multiple seasons. Like, that's commonplace now, but they were catching up all these seasons. And so they would come in, different people from the department who they didn't even know what audio description was in a way, they were kind of come in and watch Tansy do it in the booth. So literally they'd sit outside the booth and just listen and it was a very unique experience. And I was going in like 4 days a week. So I would say that's when I started getting really busy. Yeah.
I'm curious to know then, you said that you came from a voice acting background. What did you discover was the difference between voice acting and audio description narration? Because there's similarities, but there's also nuanced differences. So, how did that translate for you?
It's a good question. I'm also an actor and I'm also a musician. I would say music really affects the whole thing with voiceover. So I would say music was inspirational in my delivery of voiceover for commercials and some trailers and things that have done over the course of time because of pacing. And in acting, you're becoming a certain character or version of yourself. Like you're the mom, you're the attorney, you're the boss, you're the maid, whatever you are, it's just you becoming that person. Unless you're doing animation, then you're becoming a whole different character. You can be whatever you want, like that. But when you're yourself in voiceover, you have to kind of relay everything through emotion and being the character, the goals of that character, just like in acting. In audio description, I kind of toss that aside. I'm not any of those things. I am an extension of the project. I'm an extension of the music, the sound effect, the tone of is it a rom-com? Are they laughing or are they crying? Did they just break up? So I'm not acting, I'm just melding into the moment to try not to jar the listener out of the experience. I'm there to not be a character, but to guide the project along smoothly, kind of like an inner voice in your head. That's how I see it.
I love what you said about guiding the project. I think that's spot on right there, is guiding the project forward and expanding and enhancing what's already there. And I know that you've done a lot of different genres. Out of curiosity, have you noticed different approaches, even within the audio description performance, in the different genres, in how you would deliver something for maybe horror and then, like you said, romantic comedy or serious drama? What nuanced differences have you noticed there?
Oh, so many. That's a great question. For some reason, I get cast a lot for horror films. Halloween and those kind of things. There's a dryness in my voice that I utilize to kind of traverse those kind of time periods where there's not a lot going on and there's not a lot of emotion. But when we're in a romantic comedy and they're kissing, it's going to be a completely different, they're kissing. It's a very soft, romanticized moment that I just want the viewer to kind of sail along with. Whereas when Freddy Krueger takes a knife and jabs it into someone's neck. I'm going to deliver that with, or surprise, the bomb blows up. I'm not going to just be like, the bomb blows up. I'm with it. I'm with the energy of the music. So, I took a voiceover class years and years ago where they played music and had us read a commercial spot against the music. And then they would change the music. And you would read the same commercial spot. And it's the way that it directs the delivery just by listening to the music or the silence, right? The silence is pretty amazing because if it, there was, I don't know, back in the early 1900s, there was this black and white footage that is used over and over in filmmaking classes. They show this group out in the middle of a field, and they're all like this, like a family, and they're all dressed really drab black, back then. It's like 1910 or 20. And they play music that's somber, and you look out and you're like, it looks like they're at a funeral. You just feel like this low energy, and you just imagine they're at a funeral. And then in the next take, they have the same scene, but they play it with this upbeat music, and suddenly you see it as a party. They're having a party out there. I don't even know where you can see that now, but I know that's what they kind of were basing this exercise on in the class. And that is before I did audio description. And it taught me that that's the indicator. And that's why I was hired in the first place. Because at the first audition I had, they took me through 5 clips of like a military movie, then a rom-com, then a sci-fi. And the music, it really moves you into the right direction. Just when you're listening, don't you notice that? Like, we can get sad just by hearing the orchestra play a lot of stringed instruments, and we can start crying even though the actors aren't even talking. So that's what I noticed. So anybody out there that wants to work in this area, practice against the backdrop of different kinds of music and see what it does to your delivery. Because that's what in a show, that's what we're listening to them emoting, the actors, and we're listening to the music, sound effects.
Do you have a certain genre that is your favorite to work in?
I like romantic comedies, although they're really fast-paced usually, and I like dramas. I like dramas. I work in a lot of dramas like Slow Horses. I'm sorry, we work under fake titles for all our projects so that there's more anonymity to the project as it's being transmitted around. So sometimes I forget what the real titles are, but I had to go back and I had to watch Slow Horses again later because of the way it was delivered to me. I couldn't appreciate it. What a great show. Have you guys watched Slow Horses?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's a great kind of it's in Britain, and you've got
Is that Fassbender also?
no,
No.
no. You've got the police, and then you've got this group who is kind of like people who misbehaved in the police department, in the like detectives, and they get moved over to this other building, and they're called Slow Horses. They're ridiculed and called Slow Horses, but they solve all these crimes. Oh, it's a great show. You guys should check it out. Yeah.
It's been on my watch list for a while. I definitely want to check that out.
There's so much now to watch, isn't there? And it had audio description because I know I did the first like 3 or 4 seasons of it. And then again, projects move and they don't take the narrator with them. So I just have had to accept that. That's another sad thing, but it's just part
That's something that we talk about all the time on the show is we don't understand. We do understand, but we don't understand why projects move from one platform to another platform. And the audio description track that the studio or whoever paid money for exists, but they don't take it with them. And I'm always like, why would you do that?
I ask everybody I work with, and they always say, "Oh, it's a licensing thing." But that's part of advocacy, right? That's what we should be advocating for, is that should be completely glued to the project. Like whatever they're paying to license, whatever it is, that thing should be glued and go. Just like closed captioning, it should all just be a package that goes from here to there. It's not about me. I don't care about but I listen to other people's stuff and look, why can't it just, and why are companies having to redo it? They get a project, it goes from this company over to Hulu, and then Hulu has to redo it. It's like, well, Talk about a waste of time, right? When they already have it recorded. So yeah, what have you guys figured out on, has anybody made any headway to get that audio description track to move with the project? Is there
I've been definitely trying to help out with that. There was a title flow for the Criterion Collection that they announced, and I knew it had AD that Liz Gutman wrote on Mac. So I emailed Criterion and I was like, "Hey, I know you guys are doing this. Are you aware there's a track?" And they were like, "No." So I connected them with Liz Gutman, and then it got on the disc. But yeah, I think a lot of it is like when they don't know what it is. And so I guess that's what we're trying to do on the podcast is educate as well.
Alex, that's a good point. They might not even know it exists. They have no idea what it is. So they're not looking for it. You're right.
I know you've done a lot of franchises. Is there a particular franchise where you're like, when you get another one, you're like, oh man, like you get excited? Because I know there's like a new Hunger Games coming out,
I know. I've got people
stuff like
writing
that.
me. I've got fans. I've got a few fans. So they write me, Hunger Games is coming out. Are you doing it? I don't know because
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know what production, I don't know who's going to get the projects.
yeah.
If it's the original company I worked for, probably I'll get it. But and I tell them I'm real, I'm sorry. And I'll write the I have no control. We're all hired guns, right? We're
Hmm.
hired guns. So I'm very appreciative of everything I've been given. There's no doubt there's been an abundance, but I have no control on what projects I get or where they go, and am I going to be on the next season? And it's just it's out of my
But
hands.
but is there a franchise that you particularly get excited for when
Well,
you
I was excited for the Stranger Things, and then
oh
when
for
I didn't
sure.
get the last season, I was kind of sad. Oh gosh, there's just so many. And Hunger Games. Oh yeah, I loved Hunger Games, so I really hope to be attached to that. So many things have come and gone. You guys have listened to some of my stuff. Is there favorites that you have that projects I've been involved with that made sense to you guys?
Oh, for me, I mean, it's definitely Stranger Things. I bought the first season. It's like this VHS box with like the discs inside, and so your AD is on that. So when I went back and rewatched a couple of years ago, I now associate your voice with Stranger Things. So I'll hear you in other projects, and I'll be like, oh wait,
I would say for me, it's Stranger Things as well. Also, The Hunger Games, and then you did both Quiet Place movies, correct?
Yes, that was interesting movies, right? Like those projects are really quiet. I'm sorry to use the title. They're so quiet and leaving those blank spaces is so mandatory to create the suspense. But again, there's so little dialogue that my job becomes much larger because I have to describe everything because there's no dialogue, right? It's like they're whispering or nothing. And so it's pretty much all description and then long silences. I just thought that was such an amazing idea for a project. And it was scary. I was scared watching it, and it was just beautifully crafted. Did you enjoy the movie
oh yeah,
or both of them?
I love the franchise. I think especially with the AD, it's one of the AD tracks that I point to for people to ask for an example of good audio description because I think, like you said, the silence is really important. Like you can't just fill it wall to wall with description because A Quiet Place, the whole point is the silence creates the tension. So you really have to have that balance of like telling us what's going on, but then also letting it speak for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it scary to you? It was scary to me, and I was doing the description. I'm
Oh
wondering,
yeah.
I'm wondering if listening to the description, you guys both have a certain amount of sight, but maybe without being able to see all the details at the exact moment, did you still feel that fright?
For me, definitely. I think in all three of them. What about you, Lee?
Absolutely. I would say that the silences, the tension, the suspense, all of that is felt within the way that everyone found the balance for the sound or lack of sound to breathe along with the description as well. And I thought it was very well done. And I always give people just like Alex, that as an example of really good audio description. And it's so unique too. And I'm curious to know, was A Quiet Place the first film that you had to approach in the way that you did because of how quiet it was and how lacking of dialogue it was, especially the first one?
Absolutely. But before I move on with the answer, I really have to give 99% of the credit for all my work to the writers. Doing a lot of live projects myself, I have to create the dialogues that go extemporaneously. The writers on almost every project I've ever done, and Liz Gutman is one of those on a couple. I think she did Cold Case, a bunch of seasons of that. I worked on a couple projects with her, but it's the writers craft the dialogue that I'm going to be saying, and then I have to deliver it in a meaningful way, trying to interpret what the writer wanted me to get across in conjunction with what I'm hearing and seeing. And The Quiet Place, the decision was to be more thoughtful in my delivery because it's quiet. It's not a full voice type of delivery unless they're running. They're running, and there's this, that there's those moments in these movies where there's a tension and they're running and the music gets loud and the creatures, but the most of that, they're quiet, right? So that indicates my delivery right away that I'm going to be soft with it. I hope I achieve that. It's going to be a softness in my delivery as they're creeping through the woods. They're not creeping through. So that's something when sometimes people send me a reel of something so I can listen to them for voiceover or audio description. And it's not like I'm the expert in the planet, but I think that sometimes they don't understand their approach is maybe too heavy-handed or that. And that movie taught me to have to be very gentle and thoughtful.
That makes sense. And one of the things I was also curious about when you talked about the collaboration with the writers as well, do you ever have any level of control as a narrator to go back to the writer if there's any suggestions that you have? For example, you're like, you know what, maybe we could use a different choice of word here, or maybe we don't need as much description here. I don't know what that collaboration is like in that regard. And I've always been curious to know what control, if any, the narrators have to make suggestions to the writers.
Good question. I do not ever collaborate directly with the writers, but I have a certain amount of experience and my clients have a level of trust with me so that when I see something on the page that doesn't seem right or makes sense or doesn't really describe accurately what I'm seeing, or maybe it was written in Britain or somewhere else and there's a different kind of language, like it's not localized. Like we say trash can, maybe they're using the word, well, bin's not too far off, but boot or trunk, there's different. So I'm able to kind of rewrite in that moment, record what I think it is. I always record the original as an alt that I can send them. And then I usually just send them a note. I changed these to 3 lines because of this. And generally, I don't get this. They say thanks and they move forward. But I'm not actually collaborating with the writer. I'm usually collaborating at that point with the project manager or the QCer.
For your process, I know you've been in this industry for a long time. How have you seen your process change over the years?
I feel like sometimes when I'm listening back, I feel like it sounds like I was drugged because I'm cold reading. For the most part, I'm cold reading what I've never seen. It's scrolling or it's however it's delivered. We use many different DAWs, audio workstations to create this content. And I listen back and find like I just feel like I'm in slow motion. I actually do you guys turn up the speed when you're listening to stuff now? Because now we have an option to make it faster.
I will do that sometimes on like YouTube videos or podcasts, depending on what it is. But on movies, I never do that, or TV shows.
How about you, Alex?
I don't do it, but I know Lee has a really good memory, so he's able to do it.
Oh, that's funny. I listen to podcasts now. I turn them up to 1.75 the speed. Brrr. Like, and I learned that from listening to some of my clients who said they speed things up. So some of my stuff I record, I feel like the cold reading. So I try to look at the sentences now before I read them really quickly so that I don't sound like I'm like this. That's part of my process. That's something that's changed. And I just, it's kind of second nature to me now. And I really would love to get more feedback on what viewers think of how we're all doing. So you guys are reviewing movies, and I would like to see even the audio description without, slamming anybody. I'd like to know if there's a better way to do it, or words that would be more meaningful, or descriptors that would be more meaningful. So part of my process that's changed is I try to think more like somebody who can't see everything on the screen now. It's a big part of my process.
Are you able to be in touch with the blind and low vision community and viewers within that community to get feedback currently?
I would love to be able to do some surveys. I've got individuals that I ask questions of. There's the changes I'm seeing in the industry are not fast enough for my liking, honestly. I would, I'd like to know if it's relevant to anybody, like what people look like, how tall they are, what color their skin is, how do they wear their hair, from my knowledge, understanding, most people who have low vision or are blind have seen at some point in their life. So they probably seen buildings and mountains. They know what skyscrapers look like. They know what red looks like. So is it important, or, is it important to know what somebody's background is, nationality? Are they large? Are they small? Are they thin? Are they wide? I see some feedback in some of the discussion groups, and I try to take that to heart. So I kind of try to advance via those kind of commentaries I see. Nobody wants to feel like they're pigeonholed into a category that is unflattering. So I try to find other words to describe. You understand in wrestling, do you guys ever listen to or watch wrestling? Because you have people that are thin, you have people who are small, short, muscular, really kind of eat too much people. And I don't want to describe them in negative terms. You're laughing, Alex. I want to describe them more in a way that people can kind of identify that they have a larger opponent. You got somebody who's like 135 pounds against somebody who's 300 pounds, you know.
Yeah, so when you're doing the live WWE description, you're basically the writer when you do that too, right?
Exactly. It's extemporaneous. Like they come out and I'm like, oh, Charlotte's wearing a blue coat with a feathery Medici collar, and it's just you learn, like, some of the names of the moves. I can learn. I've learned them, but they may have a special name. I've never watched wrestling before I got involved. And for this guy, it might be called an Alabama slam, and the same exact move for someone else will be called something else. But it's the same to me. It looks like the same move.
Do
So
you
it's interesting.
do you do that from your home, the
Yeah,
live description?
yeah, I do it from my home studio, which is not this. I have a booth, but I didn't want to sit in my booth for this because, as we were saying before this interview, audio description is a very alone job, Even, yeah, it's very alone. So yeah, it's fun to do live stuff. I was mentioning earlier, I just was went up to Apple. Apple will use me for some of their, like, developer conference, product release, and they called me up for a project in March, and I had no idea what it was. It's through a client. And I had no idea what it was. They didn't know what it was. I couldn't find it online. And so I said, okay, I'll be there. So they flew me up and all that. And then I got this call sheet that said musical artist and the band. And so the next morning when I got up in the hotel, I was like, musical artist. Wow, wait a minute. This is like, I grew up in the Bay Area, and this is up in Cupertino. And so I was like, oh, wait a minute. Isn't Apple celebrating their 50th anniversary? Wait a minute. Paul McCartney was just in Los Angeles for a two-night gig. And that was on Friday, Saturday, and this was Monday morning. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney's going to play. And I look online, I'm like, where's Paul playing on March 31st? And it said, rumor has it that Paul McCartney will be playing at Apple on March 31st. Of course, I was very excited. I'm a Beatles fan. I jam in a Beatles group. I'm not the greatest guitar player, but I play guitar and stuff. And and I was really excited, and it was Paul McCartney. So we had a rehearsal that night, and then the show the next night. So one of my most favorite projects that I've done so far.
That's awesome. I would love to see Paul McCartney in concert or live to any capacity. And speaking of your work with live audio description and kind of the whole extemporaneous nature of that, what are the challenges for you?
Well, A, it's not scripted, as you just said. So now, even if I'm getting a rundown of vaguely what's going to happen, and sometimes I'm not, sometimes it's cluttered with a lot of technical stuff going on with cameras and other stuff. It happens really fast, and it's having to make that split second decision on what I think might be important to the low vision or blind viewer. Maybe they're dancing. So let's say the Rose Parade. I did that a couple times. So you've got a float, which is beautiful flowers and seeds, and people are on the float, and then people jump off the float, and you've got a famous singer on, and they're on the asphalt of the road right next to the float, and the singer's singing the song that everyone wants to listen to. But right next to on both sides, flanking the singer will be people dancing with colorful outfits and leaping through the air and doing cartwheels. Do I interrupt Paul McCartney? Do I interrupt this singer? To describe these actions that are going on? I have to guess what is important to the viewer. Do they want to know that there's dancers cartwheeling and throwing each other in the air, or do they just want to listen to the song? And maybe I'm going to ask you guys that question right now. Do you want to know what's happening next to the singer on the stage when Christina Aguilera or your favorite rapper or whoever you listen to? Do you want to know what's happening around them?
That's a great question. And I think Alex and I might have slightly different answers on this. So, for context, I'm a very big musical person. So, I love watching movie musicals. And oftentimes there's that balance of them describing, the dancing that's happening even over orchestral dance breaks. And I'm always the person that would rather just listen to the lush orchestrations rather than describing the dance moves that are there. But that's just me. And also, I usually come with a lot of familiarity with whatever musical I'm watching. So I don't necessarily need the dance moves described to me. I'd rather just take in the music itself. And within the Rose Parade or any other live performance, I would want to know maybe key things like Christina Aguilera is wearing a white dress with flowers. But beyond that, I'm okay just taking in the music and letting the music do the work for me. Once again, I'm one person in that, and I know that everyone's going to have a different viewpoint on that. But Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it's really a fine line. Because I mean, when I saw Wicked, the first Wicked movie, I would take out the earbuds sometimes during the songs because, like, I want to hear them singing. I don't want to hear them talk over the songs. But then, like, I know with other things, sometimes my mind changes. I think with Wicked, it's because I knew the songs and it was part of the emotion, the nostalgia, and all of that. But if I don't know the songs, I think I want to know more of the choreography, especially if it's like part of a story or something like that. But I do think there's a fine line of like, how much do you talk and how much do you listen? It's almost like A Quiet Place is the same kind of thing.
Yeah, so I treated the Paul McCartney concert like the Quiet Place.
Yeah.
I was, my mind predetermined to not interrupt their songs unless absolutely necessary in a break, like between a verse and a chorus, where it's just like a little short interlude, because the fans came to hear him and him sing. They didn't come to hear me. So I had to make that decision. And there was only a couple times when I would say anything in the middle of the song. There was fireworks going off above the rainbow stage. It looks like the Hollywood Bowl, but it's rainbow. It's in Apple Park, and there was a couple times where the background had something, but it was really tough decision because I've been trained to also, I do Dance Moms, which is a show about those women that are fighting over their kids that are dancing, and we have these long dance numbers but nobody's singing a famous song, so I'm not having to worry about that, right? But there are known songs that we all listen to, so those are scripted. So there's a balance. I notice how the writers write. There's some leaping through the air because this is a dance show. It's about these kids competing. But when Paul McCartney or the Rose Parade is going on, people are there to hear like Christina Aguilera, whoever's on the road. They're there to hear them. They're not, I mean, they're taking in the dancing, but thank you guys for sharing your perspective because I just want to hear that kind of feedback from two people who I consider to be experts in the area, both due to your low vision, but due to your advocacy and your rating movies, and you guys are really involved in this in so many ways. It's important for me to hear back from the community. So thanks.
Well, thank you for asking us as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Especially coming from you, like a voice that we recognize, that means a lot. But I mean, since you've been doing WWE for you said 6 years, right?
Yeah, 6.5 years now.
So they must, I mean, obviously they like how you do it, how you write the description pretty much and in the moment. Are there certain things that you find um that you've gotten positive feedback on? Like I'm sure you're not like, in this corner you're not doing the announcer stuff, but
No, no,
like
no,
yeah.
no. Um, you'd be surprised how little feedback there really is. Probably because, I think that these companies are trying to do something for some of their fan base, but I don't think they always completely understand what audio description is or the process. I have conflicting scenarios where the two announcers who narrate who do the whole, there's the color commentary and the straight guy, right, that are doing the announcing, they start going off on this kind of fluffy, repetitive stuff. Meantime, there's a bout going on in the ring, and people are flying through the air and getting smashed and hit with a chair, and they're talking over it all. And so I have to kind of break that cardinal rule. In every single broadcast, I have to make these quick decisions. Do I describe what's going on in the ring? Or I'm telling you, these guys aren't giving, they're just like, oh, yeah, it's been a tough season. And, so and so's been over, here. And, he had some tough times last month. And I'm thinking, there's a whole match going on. Does the wrestling fan want to know what's happening in the ring, or do they want to listen to these guys just shooting the breeze? You know what I mean? And nobody gives me that feedback. So when something exciting happens, I just quickly interject and get out of there and let them carry on. But those are things I would love feedback on. Should I just be quiet during all of the bout, even though they usually jump in about 2/3 of the way through, and they'll be like, "Oh, look, he did a vertical suplex," and he really, or they'll say like, "Oh, wow, that was great. What was great?" Or look at, well, he got him back. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm blind, I'm like, got him back? What are you talking about? That's when I'd be asking the person next to me, like, what just happened? What just happened? So that's what's in my head all the time is if I would I be asking like, what just happened? What just happened? And should I describe it? And I don't get enough feedback, to be honest with you. So that's where I'm at.
I haven't watched wrestling before with audio description, but I will give it a watch and let you know what I think because that does sound like a very interesting challenge to know should I talk over these people because there is something actionable happening that the blind audience would want to know about, or do I just let things play out so they can hear the banter?
Yeah, the banter's if I feel like it's just kind of repetitive and just like they're filling time if they're advertising for the pay-per-view event coming up, or I try to steer clear for a moment, but they do that throughout the show. Yeah, it's Friday nights on USA Network if you want to listen.
Yeah, I'll check it out. And as we start to wrap up here, one last question to dive into, and I'm sure we could do a whole podcast episode on this question alone. But you being in the audio description field, I'm curious to know how AI is changing the game for audio description, whether for better or worse. We just have to admit that it's here in every field of work and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the ways the audio description is has and is changing. Even in our contracts, we don't want someone like stealing our voice and just creating new audio description episodes without, including us or compensating us. But it's here to stay. And my friends, everyone, I watch the discussions. I'm just going to give my opinion. I hear over and over like, oh, it's just not good and nobody wants to listen and it's going to go away and they want live voices. I'm a musician. I remember when analog turned to digital, equipment, amps, microphones, a lot of digital equipment came out, and it was kind of cold and tinny at first. And people would be like, oh, that doesn't sound good. You can tell that it was made with digital and not analog. But over time, they warmed it up. And pretty much everything we hear on air now, in some part of it or all of it, is made with digital equipment. And we can't tell the difference, or we've become kind of immune to the difference. And that's where I think AI is going. It's a young guy who's was blind at birth. He became a super fan of Stranger Things, and we've kept in touch this whole time. His name's Eric, and we've kept in touch. Now he's in his 20s. I watched his high school graduation, and he keeps me abreast of where AI is. And one day last year, he sent me a reel of himself. AI takes on his own voice. And I was listening to it, and I've heard his voice, and I was listening to this, and I couldn't tell, I really couldn't tell it was AI. And I thought, this is where we're going because he's on top of it. He's like at the cutting edge, listening and listening, going, wow, it's really getting better. So yeah, I'm sorry. It's here to stay, and I think it will take over a lot of this work, put me out of work, I suppose, but provide more content for the viewer, and it will become more warm and fuzzy. And, as long as there's a QCer, like you guys, to listen to the product and say that part didn't sound good, and then they'll just redo that part. That's where I see it going, honestly. It's going to get warm and fuzzy like the way the music equipment did. It's just a matter of time. Live, I'm not sure about live yet. That will be a longer process, you know.
Yeah, it'll be
It's
really interesting to see where everything goes.
It seems like live would be a lot harder to do AI. I mean, I'm sure they're already brainstorming how they can get that done, but live anything is never going to be the same without human voices and human presence there.
I know we say that. However, it's going to get so good that you might not know that it's not a human. And that young man, Eric, sent me last a year and a half ago. AI could describe all the elements in this picture, like this complicated picture. And he sent this to me, and it had the voice, the AI, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like a red rose sits in a red vase on the table on the left. It's more of a matter of selecting what might be important on the go, but it's en route. So I have no doubt that within 5 to 10 years, it could definitely be in the mix. So yeah, I like listening to a live voice, but what happens when we can't tell the difference?
Wow. Yeah.
That's just my honest take on it. I hate the thought because this career path for me has been, I just love helping people. I get to be creative. It's like, for me, audio descriptions like playing a video game. There's a lot of elements going on, and I'm just kind of going with it, and I earn a living. So it kind of checks off all my kind of boxes of what a good career path is. So I'll be sad when it's gone.
Yeah.
That's, but I'm realistic. Yeah. And
Yeah, it's that tough balance in today's culture of being realistic about where we're at and finding out how do we adapt to this and still continue to make a living in some way. It's something that we're all struggling with in every field right now.
yeah, because maybe the interviewer in the future is going to be AI,
Yeah.
right? So you're right, you said it. How do we adapt and fit in? I love what I do to do the voice, and maybe that won't be available to me. I don't know. Maybe, but there's other parts to this system that need QCing, project management. There's so many other aspects. Where can I fit in or not? That's what I ask. So,
It'll be really interesting. And then obviously with Waymo and self-driving cars, all that stuff too.
yeah, wouldn't that be exciting, Alex? If you owned a self-driving car, you don't even have to get Waymo. You just have a car in your driveway, and you just because I don't know what would be most economical, but let's say it was cheaper for you to own the way like a self-driving car, right? Some of the Teslas kind of drive themselves now, and then you just go out and you get in the car and you just say, "Take me here," and off it goes. And it's kind of exciting to think that that's how
Uh,
it can be.
yeah, that would be amazing. I know they're scanning Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena right now. I don't know if they're scanning over where you are yet, but Waymo's about to launch over by us, and I'm hoping it'll time out with when I get my guide dog because I know people have trouble. Like Ubers aren't allowed to cancel on you, but they do because it's their personal car and they don't want a dog in their car.
Oh
But with
yeah.
Waymo, it's no one's car, so you can just have your guide dog in there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I
Yeah.
had to take my dog, I had to use a lift to take my dog when I went to Apple. So I had to my car broke down the night before.
Oh no.
Yeah, I developed a coolant leak, a major coolant leak. Like all the coolant came out. And so I was like, oh shoot, what do I do? And so in the morning, I'm like, okay, a lift. Is there a lift that takes the dog? And yeah, I found a lift that took the dog because I had to drop my dog off at the place where he stays and then go to the airport. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, what if the guy cancels on me on the way over? Like, what if nobody wants to take a dog in their car? So good
Yeah.
point. Good point. Good point.
This has been so great, Tansy. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're like we always joke that like to blind people, like some of the audio description narrators are like celebrities. You're definitely one
Oh,
of those. So
oh my gosh. Well, I'm just a normal person. Thank you for being so kind. It's really sweet of you to say that. Thank you.
And before we go, just one last thing to leave us with. How would you answer this question? Why does audio description matter?
It matters because everyone should be included in the enjoyment of life. I'm not just going to say TV and movies, it's life. And to be able to have a describer in your ear to tell you about the landscape in front of you out in the real world is just as important as having somebody describing to you what's on TV, what's in movies, what's in the stage production, so that you can have conversation and be included in all communities for that water cooler discussion. Basically, you access is everything, and I believe in equal access for everyone.
I love that. I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. And if people want to follow you or see what you're doing, is there any social media that you have or anything you want to plug?
Nothing to plug because I'm under so many NDAs. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about or not talk about. But I do have a Facebook page, Voice by Tansy Alexander, and a lot of people reach out to me there. That's pretty much the best place. Voice
what
by.
was your latest project that got released? Do you remember?
Well, right now well, I can't talk about what I'm working on right now. See, that's pretty awful, isn't it? Because everything's.
I guess Friday nights you have the WWE SmackDown.
Yes, I have that every week.
Yeah.
But I'm working on some projects right now. I was just finished the comeback about the actress that's making a comeback. But see, that was a show I came in on season 3, so I don't know who did the first 2 seasons, but they lost the show.
Oh, okay. Do you
Yeah,
know what channel that's on?
but I think it's HBO.
Okay.
Just to give you perspective, when you're going through so many projects, they kind of like go in and out.
Oh, for sure.
They just kind of go in and out. Like I'm just involved, and then I literally wish I had that kind of photographic memory. But
When we did this podcast, Thea and I were like, we need to choose, are we doing movies or TV? Because if we do both, we're gonna have no life. We need to choose one.
oh,
So,
that's right, because you have to watch them all to
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
review. Yeah. Oh, maybe before we go, what's your favorite TV series on right now?
Oh, TV series?
Yeah, that's on the air right now, maybe, or that you guys are involved with.
Well, right now I'm watching The Boys, Invincible, and Daredevil just ended. So all three of those are running at the same time.
Yeah, The Boys
Um,
is a big show, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I just got tickets to see the finale in theaters and
Oh,
2 weeks. So
wow.
yeah,
That's exciting. Yeah, that's a really successful show. I've seen some of it. I got to keep watching it. And what about you, Lee?
I would say, even though this is kind of old news, I'm currently in the middle of The Pit, and I'm really enjoying that show. I was a little late to the game on it, but everyone kept talking about it, and I figured I had to check it out, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Oh, that's great. I haven't seen that at all. I'll put it on my list to watch.
that's one I need to give another chance because I know Lee's memory is much better than mine, but there's like tons of characters, so you need to remember the names of all the people to follow what's going on. I know it's really fast paced, so I need to watch that when I can pay more attention.
Yeah, I'm not good at doing that myself, but um, I guess when you can't see their faces, you have to remember their names, right?
Yeah,
And so you're kind of forced into that. Yeah. Well, that's good. Thanks for the recommendations. There's so many shows to watch nowadays that nobody has time for all of them. So,
Absolutely, it's true. It's a pick and choose sort of climate
yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
and I think in terms of what we were talking about before, just to wrap up, Lee, and bring it back, I know you were talking about like what to describe, in terms of picking and choosing. Um, I thought Sheep Detectives, the movie that's out right now, did a really good job of that because
Cheap.
they really described like the different looks of the sheep, which I did not expect them to do. And so it really made you like kind of identify what voice goes with what sheep, and they did a great job of that.
Sheep Detectives. I
Yeah.
haven't even heard of this. That's funny. What a funny name. Oh, they're actual sheeps? Are they animated or what?
It's like a Babe meets Knives Out kind of a thing.
Oh, I love Knives Out.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like a murder mystery, and basically the sheep's shepherd, I guess you shepherd gets murdered, and so they're trying to figure out who did it. It's really cute.
I'm writing it down. Sheep Detectives. Thank you. That's so funny. Well, thanks you guys for having me on. And if you ever want to do a sequel, let me know. We'll meet up again down the road. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
We're game for that for sure. And thank you all out there for listening. If you want to contact us about anything that you heard in today's episode, you can reach us at darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. And you can also follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Darkroom Filmcast.
And we'd like to thank Matt Lauterbach and All Senses Go for transcripts of this episode.
Thank you all once again, and we'll see you back here next time on The Dark Room.
Take care, guys.